What's up? This is Talking Hoops here on Zingo Television, I-95, Facebook Live, and also YouTube Live as well, too. Checking in with you live tonight. For the next 30 or so minutes, we're going to talk everything, all things NBA bubble, and also all topics basketball with some of the best personalities you're going to find across the league and across the entire country. So if you are watching on Facebook Live or watching on YouTube, by the way, if you want to like, share, and also comment on the show, you're going to also have the ability to have your posted comments shown on the screen as we go along. So we're checking it live with you tonight. Listen, it's bubble madness. It's the month of March and the month of August. So let's catch you up on everything that's going on in the wonderful world of the National Basketball Association inside of a bubble. So what we do know is that there have been 3 teams officially eliminated from the bubble. And, well, we kind of figured that the Washington Wizards weren't going to make it very long. Well, the Wizards pretty much played themselves out of the bubble, and to the point where their record's going to finish worse than the Charlotte Hornets, who are not in the bubble. Well, happy trails, Washington. See you later. The Sacramento Kings didn't really have much to stand on when they started in the bubble with the injury to Marvin Bagley III. And then on top of that, De'Aaron Fox wasn't completely healthy the entire time. Harrison Barnes was dealing with coronavirus along with Alex Len. Guess what? Kings, see you later. All right, that's number 2. But the surprising one of the entire bubble was the New Orleans Pelicans, one of the better teams in the NBA, especially after the return of Rookie of the Year candidate Zion Williamson to the lineup. They were 10-9 going into the bubble. Well, Zion left the bubble for about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks, comes back, and guess what? He wasn't in complete shape. And at that point, the Pelicans torpedoed themselves right out of the bubble. See you later. Those 3 teams will be ending their stay in Orlando sometime on Thursday night as they fly back home to enjoy and stay safe throughout COVID-19. Thank you for playing, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's really get down to the real nitty-gritty. All right, so with those teams now eliminated, the Eastern Conference playoff chase has been pretty much settled. As you see on the ticker below, that's going to be Eastern Conference first-round matchups. You're looking at the Orlando Magic taking on the Milwaukee Bucks, the Toronto Raptors taking on the Brooklyn Nets, the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers will be going out in round 1, and the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers will also be clashing heads in the opening round as well, too. You see the matchups on the bottom on the scrolling ticker. The Eastern Conference, the playoffs will begin sometime on Monday because of the fact of the Western Conference is a little murkier side. But before we get to the Western Conference, let's talk a little about the Eastern Conference a little bit and what you're going to see in the first round matchups. All right, the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks, listen, they might have lost a couple games in the bubble. They were on pace to win almost 70 games before the bubble happened. The good news is they're going to this first round series with Orlando Magic with no injuries. The Magic, on the other hand, well, they ended up losing Jonathan Isaac in the beginning part of the bubble. He's not going to return, probably miss the majority, if not all of next season. Then Aaron Gordon gets hurt, and also in the first part of the bubble games, Evan Fournier missed time, and the Magic right now are a complete train wreck right now. The good news is they avoid the Toronto Raptors, a team they don't do well against. But the bad, even worse news is they're taking on a team that swept them in the regular season, and none of those games are really pretty as well. The Milwaukee Bucks will come in and they take on the Orlando Magic. Listen, the Magic will have some good news that Terrence Ross did not have any symptoms of COVID. He has been retested, has been re-quarantined, and should be available for game 1 of the playoffs because Orlando will need all the scoring help they can get and figure out ways to keep Giannis and Eric Bledsoe, along with Chris Middleton, Brook Lopez, and the entire Milwaukee Bucks team from completely sweeping them in round 1. The Toronto Raptors and Brooklyn Nets will tip off their playoff series, as I said, Monday or Tuesday. And let me explain how this series is going to look. Well, the Raptors are at full strength. Fred VanVleet's playing probably arguably his best basketball of the season as we get close to him getting a big payday. Hello, Detroit, in the offseason. Pascal Siakam, arguably an all-NBA player on that side. Kyle Lowry is making his case to be all-NBA. But guys like Norman Powell, OG Anunoby, Serge Ibaka, those role players are going to play humongous roles in this series. The good news is they won't be really tested because the Brooklyn Nets are pretty much injured, beat up, and you thought the Magic were bad. The Nets are even worse. We all know the Nets have struggled with injuries throughout this, injuries and guys missing the entire time. It seems like the team and players that are missing are better than the team and players that are in Orlando right now. Hate to say it. No Kyrie Irving, no Kevin Durant, no Wilson Chandler, no Spencer Dinwiddie, no Nicholas Claxton. The list goes on and on and on. The Nets are – this is going to be a sweep. Boston, Philadelphia. Now, this series has basically taken a turn in the last 7 days because of the injury of Ben Simmons, which will keep him out arguably the rest of the playoffs. He's going to be gone. Then Joel Embiid hurts his ankle. Good news is hopefully he'll be available for round one. We still don't know his injury status. Because if Joel Embiid's not going in this series, Boston should end this thing pretty quickly. Why? The only concern the Boston Celtics have is what Kemba Walker is going to be able to do. But like other things in this series, the depth of the Celtics amongst quality players all across the board should go ahead and take care of the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, the Sixers are scrappy. Josh Richardson is playing some of the better basketball of his career at this point. Al Horford will have to play the center position and man the role. And Mike Scott actually has been shooting the ball pretty well. The real question with the Sixers is, can Shake Milton be something and turn into something, because they're going to need all the offensive weapons they can get. The Celtics are loaded everywhere. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum I mentioned before, Gordon Hayward, Marcus Smart. I haven't mentioned what Kemba Walker can bring you at this point. Daniel Tice. They have guys everywhere. The Celtics should be able to win this series. I'd say maybe 5 games potentially. The other part is, now mind you, if Embiid does come back and be healthy in the series, there's not one player on that Boston team that can start Joel Embiid. And if Embiid's focused, he might be able to potentially carry the series, not only to game 6, but potentially game 7, because Embiid's that good of a player. Last first round matchup, the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers will be taking off in basically the Jimmy Butler versus TJ Warren series. They played again Monday. They play again tomorrow. Here's the real story of the series. Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren don't particularly like each other. A lot of things have been said between those two and between the media and on the court as well, too. They played Monday. TJ Warren had his lowest scoring game of the entire bubble, where he shot 5 of 14 from the floor in the Heat victory. Listen, the Pacers are missing Domantas Sabonis, and Victor Oladipo's jump shot is nowhere to be found right now. Unless Malcolm Brogdon can help TJ Warren with the scoring load and Miles Turner actually does something offensively, it could be a long series, because the Heat are loaded, healthy, and ready to make a deep run in the playoffs. Why? Jimmy Butler's healthy. Now, they have Tyler Hero. You have guys like Kelly Olynyk contributing. We all know about how good Bam Adebayo is, Gordon Dragic. The real question is, can Kendrick Nunn find himself? Because throughout this entire bubble situation, and the bubble series, or whatever you want to call it, regular season bubble, we haven't gotten much from Kendrick Nunn, who is arguably the second best rookie in this class. The Heat are going to need him, especially in the playoffs. The depth is one thing, but also at the same time, he needs as many weapons as possible. Watch out for Duncan Robinson in the series. I like the Pacers to be able to try to get TJ Warren the basketball, but just remember, Jimmy Butler is going to take the complete role to guard him in the beginning, and they got Andre Iguodala coming off the bench. Also, Jay Crowder. They have plenty of guys who can defend TJ Warren and keep him off the score sheet as well. So I like the Heat in this series as well, too. All right. Now, let's go in and dig into the Western Conference. All right. This is where it becomes fun. When I say bubble madness, this is what the NBA was expecting and looking for the entire time when we started this whole bubble process. Why were the NBA expecting this? Listen, when they decided to do the rule when it's going to be within 4 games of the playoffs and triggering an elimination game, I don't think the NBA in its wildest dreams could have expected this to happen. 2 teams are eliminated, but there are 3 teams fighting for all 4 teams that are left in the Western Conference that have not clinched are literally, as of this moment, we're having the show right now live at 9:08 Eastern time on Wednesday night. All 4 teams are separated by 0.0012 percentage points from each other in the standings, between 8 and the good old spot of 11. Remember, 8 and 9 get in, 10 and 11 are pretty much out. All right, so let's look at the teams that are fighting for the bubble. Number 1, the Memphis Grizzlies are sliding, falling, and they're going right out the window. The Memphis Grizzlies today, once again, they slipped and fell to the Boston Celtics by the score of 130 to 122-107 out in Orlando today. So here's what happens. The Grizzlies, who had the 8th spot the entire time in the entire bubble, have now basically put themselves in a must-win scenario because they have nothing. There's nothing left to stand on. The Grizzlies are now going into a 1-game playoff situation where, guess what? They have Ja Morant, but there is no Jaren Jackson. There is no Trey Jones. There is no they're missing a couple other players from the bubble, key guys that are on the bench because due to injuries. Now they're sliding, and then the team that could rise in front of them is the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, what are the Blazers doing right now? The Blazers, as we're going live, it's 132-131, 4.5 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And big shout out to my man, Dre Carter. in this game, Damian Lillard right now has 61 points right now. Yes, that's Damian Lillard's sixth game of the season, over 50 points. He has 61 points in the game tonight. Listen, Damian Lillard's going to have to score every single point possible because if this team misses the playoffs because of Damian Lillard, because of what they've done, Dame Lillard's 2 missed free throws against the LA Clippers will be huge if this team somehow misses the playoffs. The advantage the Blazers have of everybody else is the other 3 teams that they played one more additional game. So all they have to do is win tonight and win on Thursday, and they're in no matter what else anybody else does because they'll be ahead of everybody due to percentage points. If they lose tonight, they still can get in and force the playoff game, get in the playoff game. They would just have to get some help. Losses from San Antonio and the Phoenix Suns. All right, so like I said, down in Orlando, the game right now is on TNT. You can put the game on mute as you're watching and talk and listen to me as well too. 132-101, 131. Like I said, 4.5 seconds left. Trey Burke just turned the ball over with an offensive foul. And guess who took the charge? It was Mr. Lillard at the same time. Now, let's talk about the Phoenix Suns. Yep, the good old Phoenix Suns, a team that people thought, like myself, were completely not even supposed to be here. The Phoenix Suns has basically turned themselves into the only team that's undefeated in the bubble. Why? The Suns are 7-0 with 1 game left on the schedule. The Suns took care of business today. Final score 130-117 over the injured Philadelphia 76ers. They're now 7-0 and are now tied with the Memphis Grizzlies for that final spot in the play-in spot in the playoffs. Devin Booker has had a phenomenal start and has been playing very well. And to me, in this case, Devin Booker, the real question about Devin Booker is he turning into a star? Listen, Devin Booker is turning into a star right before our eyes. It's real simple. Devin Booker finally made the All-Star team this year because people always question about, well, is he good enough to be an All-Star? Is it all empty numbers at this point? Well, here's the thing. Devin Booker has been putting up these same numbers for years. He's just been on a bad team. Now the Suns have caught fire. DeAndre Ayton's playing some really good basketball. They're getting compliments from Dario Saric, among others, Jaren Carter. They're getting Frank Kaminsky, Mikal Bridges. They're getting so many guys to turn into viable pieces around Devin Booker, who literally has a chance to put himself in superstar mode at this point. All right. Is Devin Booker a star? Yes. Think about this to the point. He's a star to the point where Draymond Green caught a tampering charge on national television for saying, hey, this guy's got to get out of Phoenix. Listen, he's literally 1 game away from forcing a chance to be in the playoffs. And wouldn't it be a great story for Booker to play his first playoff series against a team that he idolized because of Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers? Now, the team that nobody's talking about is the San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs were the first team to win today and force another tie situation by beating the shorthanded Houston Rockets by a score of 108-96 today. Now, guess what? The good news is the Spurs, who everybody thought was left for dead, including yourself, have now forced themselves into this final wild day scenario. Without LaMarcus Aldridge and being led by DeMar DeRozan and a whole bunch of guys that you've probably never heard of, Jakob Poeltl, Rudy Gay, Lonnie Walker, Derek White, among others, a lot of guys the common basketball fan does not know, has put them in a place where they're going to be able to play in that final game. As I said, the final game, let me give you an update. 134-131, CJ McCollum hit 2 free throws. Dallas has called a timeout. They're going to have to shoot a 3-pointer, 3.9 seconds left to go in the game. It's all it is. All I'm saying is the Portland Trail Blazers are 3.9 seconds away from controlling all their destiny when it comes to the playoffs. Speaking of the playoffs and how this is going to work, well, the next couple days are going to be interesting. Okay. Why is it going to be interesting? Because, like I said, with the playoff races pretty much secured in most cases, and you see the Western Conference situation on the bottom. All right. Let me explain what's going on as far as the games for tomorrow goes. Indiana would take on Houston, a game that really doesn't mean much for either one of the two teams. The Rockets right now are really slotted for the 4th spot. There's no home court advantage. You might not even see Russell Westbrook tomorrow. James Harden took the day off through the rest. He should probably play tomorrow. Toronto and Philadelphia, once again, a game that really doesn't have too much meaning. I don't expect to see much of Fred VanVleet and the Stars or either team play very many minutes. Miami, Oklahoma City will be the game at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. All right. That's going to be pretty much, we all know it's going to be there. A bunch of guys sitting. Oklahoma City can jump into the 4th spot. The only thing they're trying to is avoid the number 6 spot. That's all you need to do in the situation. All right, last but not least, Clippers, Denver, this late game tomorrow night. Listen, all you have to say about this game is really once a bunch of guys are resting themselves, getting prepared. Update, the Portland Trail Blazers have now taken over the advantage and controlled their entire destiny. They took care of business 134-131 over the Dallas Mavericks. All right, now the Blazers are in 8. Everybody else is now in number 9, basically. All right, the Wednesday games. We do not have the time for the games yet because the NBA has not released them, but we do know this. On Thursday, there are going to be 4 games on Thursday, and all 4 games Thursday, the remaining games on Thursday will have all playoff implications for the most part. The games that nobody really going to care about on Thursday, Nuggets, Raptors, okay, we talked about that. Guys will be resting. Heat, Pacers, how much of Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren we're going to see of those 2 teams. They'll be seeing each other next week anyway. Don't really want to pay attention to that. All right. And let's see. All right. We have Wizards Celtics on Thursday. Celtics are just hoping not to get hurt. Wizards are ready to go home. Kings, Lakers. Kings are ready to go home. Lakers aren't trying to get hurt. We kind of have that one. All right. Now this is where it becomes fun. The Milwaukee Bucks take on the Memphis Grizzlies at 4 p.m. as of right now. And that's the first game of the days that's going to be having everything else in between. So as we talk about these matchups, let me get Deshaun Tate on from Tate's Take. Deshaun, let me add him into the stream. What's going on, bro?
Man, what's up with you, big dog?
Deshaun Tate from Tate's Take and Take Hoops as well, too. So, Deshaun, we're in here talking about, well, the final day of, we call of August, Bubble Madness has now come down to this. As we saw earlier, the Portland Trail Blazers finally took advantage of everything, beating the Dallas Mavericks 134-131. The Blazers now 8, and everybody else is now fighting. Now, everybody in this bubble, Deshaun, will play on Wednesday. So the Bucks and Grizzlies will take the first game at 4:00 as of right now. The Bucks, I don't know how much of Giannis and those guys we're going to see in this final game of the bubble for them, but the Grizzlies have been sliding. The Grizzlies can't find offense other than Ja Morant. Morant played 42 minutes today, 29 points and 13 assists. Deshaun, do you think the Grizzlies have any chance of winning this game and saving their season?
I don't think so, and I'm explaining to you why. I think one of the biggest reasons why is when you're talking about not having Jaren Jackson Jr. on that floor, that changes a lot of the whole landscape of so many things. But I do understand that they have pieces around him that are above average or above average production type players. But yet still, one thing you can't rush is you can't rush age. You can't rush experience. You can't rush the veteran leadership. They don't have that. They thought that they may have been able to get a little bit of a piece of that with Justice Winslow, who's also not playing, and he's really not that old. So this is a young team. I understand they got a couple little pieces here and there that have some veteran leadership, but it's nothing. It's really not enough veteran leadership in key positions for this team. Ja Morant, as a phenomenal player that he is, he doesn't have the wisdom that someone else has that he's more talented than. In the playoffs, those things make sense. Playoff scenarios and situations. The possessions slow down. There's not as much transition basketball and run and gun. Everything starts to slowly start to become more and more half-court offenses, and it tightens up on the defensive side more and more as throughout the duration of the playoffs and the closer that you get throughout it. So with that being said, I mean, I personally, I don't see it. And I think that they're just literally hours away from having to sacrifice their spot.
And the bad part is the Grizzlies were the team that was favored to get in this whole thing. Who would have known that Jaren Jackson's injury would pretty much torpedo the season? No Justice Winslow, who got hurt in the bubble, and Tyus Jones, who was out before the bubble even started. Second game of the day, the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns. Well, the Mavericks pretty much put themselves in the 7th spot by not taking care of the Blazers tonight. Now they have a chance to hold the Phoenix Suns out of the playoffs. Luka Doncic against the team that should have drafted Luka Doncic in the Phoenix Suns. All right, the Suns are 7-0. I mentioned Devin Booker is not only a star, but he might be the MVP. Now, I get your opinions in a second of the entire bubble. Now, in the NCAA tournament, we all talk about Cinderella. In the NBA bubble, the Phoenix Suns have been Cinderella. The question is it midnight for the Suns on Wednesday?
I think that the Suns, I'm afraid that I'm not sure that they have enough. I think they got off to a little bit too late of a start. And I hate to really say that and for it to be that way because of the simple fact that you can only control what you can control. And whatever it was that inspired them, whether it was COVID, whether it was the Last Dance documentary, or whatever sparked a fire underneath their bellies to come out and play the way that they did, I think that that's exceptional. I think that that's a good starting point for next season. And I would love to see them get in because I love the idea of Paul George and Damian Lillard going back and forth, spatting back and forth at each other. If I'm Devin Booker and the Phoenix Suns, I'm just sitting back and letting those guys do their thing and keeping all the heat and the attention off of me and continue to keep on winning games. With that being said, I think unfortunately they got off to a little bit too late of a start and that they may end up missing out. And even if they get in, I don't think – who would they have to play in that play-in game?
That's the $64 question. The Blazers, speaking of the Blazers, they got to play the Brooklyn Nets. If so, in the scenario now, the Blazers, all they have to do is win. All they have to do is win. If they win, they're in. They control the 8th spot. If they lose, they're going to need San Antonio and Denver, and San Antonio and Phoenix to both lose, so that way they can get the percentage points advantage because they play one additional game to leapfrog both of them in the playoffs. So, Blazers, Nets, season on the line. How ironic would it be if the Blazers would lose this game to the Nets after Damian Lillard missed free throws in the Clippers game, which cost them a victory? Can you imagine the jokes that Patrick Beverley and Paul George would have in any situation that would involve the Blazers missing the playoffs because of Dame Lillard's free throws after Dame Lillard has almost scored, 100-plus points in the last 2 games? I don't see it happening. The Nets are just way too weak, and the Nets don't really have much to play for anyway. Do you see anything from the Nets, or you think this is an easy win for the Blazers on Thursday?
Listen, Kevin Durant's not walking out of that locker room and onto the floor and dressing up and playing. Neither is this guy named Kyrie Irving. You're lucky if you're getting Karis LeVert, depending on his health status on that particular day. What's today? Which way is the wind blowing, for crying out loud, for a guy like him? I don't think that they have enough. By the way, Spencer Dinwiddie, I don't think is even playing. Jared Allen in that fro is not enough. You can't use that as two people. Last time I checked, I don't think it's enough. And if Portland happened to lose that game and they're out, they didn't deserve to be in the playoff contention in the first place. This is where people make their money. Damian Lillard cannot be this player who I have really grown a lot of respect for, who I was wrong about to an extent coming into the draft, and since then has proved me wrong on multiple occasions, as he is other people. If not nothing else, he's shown me, he's gotten a lot of respect from me in terms of how he's handled situations, including winning games and putting the team on his back. All of that being said, he deserves all of the criticism that comes with right, wrong, or indifferent. Because he is, when you think of Portland Trail Blazers, because you think of Damian Lillard, he does deserve the criticism for this team if they lose, because he's going to be the person that ultimately gets criticized. Now, if he puts up 40 or 50 points, granted, there's no reason. He's only one person. But this is a team that's good enough. When you start looking at we talking about players that have played so well since we've come back into the bubble, guess what? Gary Trent Jr. is one of those players on both ends of the ball. There are no more excuses about not having Nurkic. There are no more excuses about an unhealthy Zach Collins. You have a skinny Melo who's in shape and can give you 25 plus points on any given night. You have arguably the most underrated and underappreciated backcourt in the NBA. And by the way, for what it's worth, you got a guy named Anthony Simons who's pretty darn good too. Oh, by the way, a pretty good rim protector in a guy I'm not a huge fan of, but a guy named Whiteside. All of those pieces you lose to the Brooklyn Nets. I might laugh.
Hey, listen, the Brooklyn Nets also beat the Milwaukee Bucks inside the bubble as well, too.
With everybody healthy. I mean, let me tell you something. When you're the Milwaukee Bucks, you're going to get everybody's best shot, period. Everybody's got you highlighted and circled on their calendar. But I don't know I can't remember exactly who all did and did not play for that particular game for Milwaukee.
Well, the Bucks had one half of Giannis, one half of Chris Middleton, no Brook Lopez, and no Wesley Matthews in that game early in the bubble, which the Nets proceeded to win. And the Nets beat the Orlando Magic today as well, too. So, hey, they have a winning streak going on. Last game of the day, the Spurs and Jazz will be taking in the first round in the bubble. And so here's the thing with this game. The Spurs, like the Phoenix Suns, no one really thought they were going to be playing for a chance at a play-in matchup. I didn't believe it. I will say it as well too. No LaMarcus Aldridge, and you're running Rudy Gay. You're running DeMar DeRozan at power forward, at times playing Rudy Gay at center. Didn't think this was going to work. Well, long and behold, Greg Popovich is Greg Popovich, and the Spurs are literally one day away from being in the playoffs. Now they have the Utah Jazz to look at in the matchup on Thursday. And the one thing with the Jazz is, where the Jazz are slotted right now, they're going to be taking on the Nuggets, because guess what? When the Mavericks fumbled the football, that basically gave the Jazz the 6th spot. I wonder the Jazz, who are not completely healthy, are going to give their guys like Rudy Gobert, like Donovan Mitchell, a little bit of a day off, so that way they can be rested for the playoffs, because they're going to need to take everything they got, because Nikola Jokic and the somehow getting healthy Denver Nuggets are waiting for them on Monday. Do you think the Spurs will finish out this bubble with a victory?
I don't think so. And I think one of the things behind that is one reason why that's so difficult to count them out, because they are the organization. They are the franchise that of any, if we haven't learned anything over the last 20 years, that you just never want to count out. How many times year after year after year, and I know a lot of those guys aren't on the same team anymore, but have we counted these guys out because we said that they were too old, and they not only met expectations but exceeded them, and in some of those years won a championship? I just think that with no or a very limited at very best DeJounte Murray, amongst other guys, Bryn Forbes, I got to give all the credit to Coach Pop in the world, because without him, he is the one that is making this happen for this organization. I don't see it. I think it's about time that we start seriously considering and realistically looking at the fact that while the San Antonio Spurs is in contention, I won't lie to you, I don't even want to see them there, if I'm just being completely honest. As much as I respect and their brand of basketball and their style of play, I really feel like anybody that they match up with is that we're looking at a sweep here, or very, at best, maybe a 1-win game, maybe winning one game in a series, where I think if you put somebody else there to make for a little bit more entertaining basketball, especially considering the fact that because all of this is in a bubble, nobody has a real home court advantage.
All right, so let me explain how the situation works. And also, we have Precious in the chat saying, hello, fellas. Hey, y'all. Hey, Precious. All right. So let me explain how this is working right now. The standings at the standing point goes. All right. The Portland Trailblazers own the 8th spot right now. You have Memphis and Phoenix technically tied for 9th because of the records. The San Antonio Spurs, Deshaun, are .001 behind Memphis and Portland because they played one fewer game than both of them.
Of course.
So the amazing part about this is, if Portland wins, which has a possibility is, and everybody else wins, the Spurs don't matter. They will fall 0.001 percentage point behind both Memphis and Phoenix if everybody has the same record, because they played one less game. Unfair advantage. Now, all Memphis has to do is they just have to win. If they win, everybody else is eliminated with the exception of the Spurs. Mm-hmm. If Memphis wins, they're in. Portland wins, they're in. Mm-hmm. Phoenix would have to get Memphis to lose, and San Antonio both needs Phoenix and Memphis to lose. This is basically equivalent of watching the last Sunday of the NFL season where 5 guys are basically the 5 teams looking for one spot in the playoffs. Yeah, Drake Hart in the chat says that's completely whack. I get it. Listen, this is the only way this is going to work. Now, what they should have done
on your mathematics. I commend you on your mathematics, breaking this down to the finest point. I commend you on that because this is something that's very critical. When you start talking about how realistic something is of happening, someone making the playoffs, all the way down to the millimeter, the millisecond, the tenth of its smallest form. I gotta take my headphones off to you, my brother.
It's really the point where if you're a San Antonio Spurs fan, if you still went out, it's lights out. You're going to be upset. Everybody that is not considered the Portland Trailblazers are wanting the Brooklyn Nets to pull off another upset. If they pull off another upset, all the gloves come off at that point. That's all gloves come off at one point. What we would know is because the Bucks and Grizzlies are playing at 4:00, the NBA has subject to change all these games like the NFL does with their Sunday Night Football. They're going to change these slots games to make sure that the television networks will have all these games on somehow, some way on Thursday. They're going to fix it.
DT, ahead, I'm sitting back thinking now at this point, I wonder what Vegas has those lines at for Brooklyn on that game. That's what I'm curious of. And I don't know if that's something you can pull out. I don't know. And then maybe it's not nearly that important right now. But that's just something I'm just kind of intrigued by because that's a potential moneymaker if you're looking at spread situations in that at that point.
Well, think about this. The Brooklyn Nets turned over the biggest point differential spread in NBA history when they beat the Bucks earlier in the bubble. So if you want to look at it that way, that is a very interesting question when it comes to Vegas odds. But yes, the Spurs are at a disadvantage over everybody. They can still win, and they would still need help to get in the same way with the Phoenix Suns. All right, that's how close it is down to a potential T. So now, Deshaun, after Damian Lillard scores 61 points in a bubble game, here's my question for you. Who is the MVP of the bubble? We got some good candidates right now. You look at Devin Booker of the 7-0 Phoenix Suns, Damian Lillard, who is still scoring. I think he's still scoring right now against the Mavericks, even though his game's been over about half an hour. He's still scoring. TJ Warren, who's turned into a scoring machine up until he played the Miami Heat the other day. You got Luka Doncic throwing triple-doubles everywhere. Like this is a regular Tuesday. I think he's had almost 5 triple-doubles in the bubble. Who has been your MVP of the bubble?
It's been the player who is not only putting up the baskets, but doesn't have anything. He doesn't have an all-star on his team. He's not an all-star, if I'm not mistaken. Very young in the league, and they're unbeaten in the bubble. How could it possibly be anyone else outside of Devin Booker? I understand what the others have done and so forth, and I totally get it. I respect it. I overstand it. But as much as guys have been playing, and I'm not saying this is the best player in the bubble, but you've got some guys who have been playing really well. Brandon Ingram's been playing really well, trying to prove to people that there's a reason why he deserves to be the most improved player in the NBA. Michael Porter Jr. has been looking extremely good. Like you said, TJ Warren, I think the thing about TJ Warren, yes, that many points is a lot of points, granted. So I'll give credit to that, obviously. But it's because it's TJ Warren that's doing it. I think that people is considering the way that they are. And like I said earlier, you have a Gary Trent, who, granted, not saying he should be the MVP of this bubble, but is playing significantly well, much better than I thought that he would be. I don't see. We're having conversations about who the MVP of the bubble is. How about even some of these awards? I hear
we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. We're going to talk awards. But to me, the MVP of the bubble, and Drake Carter says that is Damian Lillard. Listen. I'm going to say this. It's got to be Devin Booker's to lose because they're the only team that's undefeated. Booker made the All-Star team this year. Devin Booker has carried this team, but DeAndre Ayton's been phenomenal as well too. Dario Saric, Mikal Bridges has been everywhere. It's Dame Lillard 1. It's Devin Booker 1A, Dame Lillard 1B. All right. Now, Dame Lillard can pass him if he pulls a David Robinson in the scoring contest. I want to say it was 95, where he scored 73 points on the final day of the season against the Clippers to win the scoring title. All right. If Dame somehow scores 70 points, I don't know, because he's capable the way he's scoring against the Brooklyn Nets, he might end up being this way. But we have a play-in game on Saturday. We already know we have a play-in game. All right, Deshaun, before we start talking about the NBA awards, you got 4 teams. We have Memphis, Phoenix, Portland, and the San Antonio Spurs. What 2 teams do you want to see playing on Saturday in the elimination game, the play-in game? Because that game is 2:30 on Saturday, and if the 9th seeded team wins, they will have to play again on Sunday, with the Lakers waiting on Tuesday.
You said between those 2 guys, and obviously you said 1A and 1B, and I'm taking Devin Booker because he's light-skinned. But I want to see the 1A versus the 1B. That's what I want to see. I want to see these 2 guys who are arguably, we're going back and forth. Me and you are saying Devin Booker. Dre and some other people are maybe saying Dame. Everybody wants to see those 2. I want to see those 2 go at it. I want to see those 2 teams go at it. I have a really good feeling of what the outcome is probably going to be anyways. But more than likely, as we can see, that very well could be Portland giving Phoenix their first loss at that point. But that's what it's made for. And guess what? All of that plus this whole bubble, this whole playoff situation scenario because of COVID and the pandemic and no true in-house arena favoritism, or not favoritism, but no fans. It's all going to make for a professional March Madness feel. This is the first time that we're really could potentially see this being there's no experience in this. The most uncertain NBA playoffs that we've ever seen. And I think the perfect way to start it off would be with the Suns against the Blazers. I would hope and pray that that's a game that the Suns win. But I don't think
so you're hoping the Suns win one game to force the game on Sunday, the second play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I want to see the Suns in there.
For me, it's got to be, you're right, Suns Blazers where we need to have. Now, what becomes interesting is, Deshaun, listen, I know next season's around the corner, but if this turns out well, do you think the NBA might trigger this clause again for next season? If you have a team that's within, I don't know, one game of the final playoff spot when the season ends at a full season, you have a chance for a one-game playoff. Double elimination for the 9 seed to win, single elimination for the 8 seed to win. Like you said, to give that March Madness feel, or do you think it shorthands the team that was 8th throughout the entire season?
I don't think it's shorthands because you're in 8th because you're in 8th. You're not in 8th because you were just placed in 8th. You're in 8th because of something you did to be there. And it's just like March Madness, where there's always going to be, there's 68 teams, but there's always going to be, ironically enough, sometimes whoever Seth Greenberg is coaching at the time that is going to be right there on the cusp, right there on the bubble, and going to determine whether it's going to be bursted or not. There's always going to be somebody. And if you turn this into 180 teams that's allowed in, 180 seeds, okay? There's always going to be the 181st. That made no sense. 181st that's going to complain, DT. I love the idea of what they're doing and how they're doing it right now because it's putting more eyes on the product. There's more uncertainty and all the reasons that people, including me and you, love about March Madness, you are creating that, and that can do nothing but bring in big bucks.
It's going to be interesting to see. Like I said, if we the one matchup we don't want to see is the Memphis Grizzlies and the San Antonio Spurs. Nobody wants to see that matchup. None of us do. So, no offense, Ja Morant. I wanted to see Ja Morant in the playoffs, but I also wanted Ja Morant and company to be right there, having, just be there when it counts the most. All right, let's talk NBA awards right now. So the NBA awards were announced earlier on this week, and let's get to it. The MVP award, and Deshaun and I will go back and forth pretty much rapid fire. I'll go over the award candidates and did they get it right, and we'll probably pick our winner. All right, let's start with the most valuable player award. Let's talk about this first. Giannis, LeBron, James Harden. Did they get it right with the three players?
Hell no. Why is Luka Doncic not in here? Because of the simple fact that James Harden can score or has scored more points than more points than Luka has. So we're falling in love with the fact of Pac-12 football and Big 12 football, where it really doesn't matter about getting stops. It's really all about being able to put more points on the board and have the possession of the last possession. I don't love that. If this is really we have to figure out what this is about. And I'm sorry, I apologize, but I've been waiting on this one, DT, for a minute. Is this really about the most valuable player, or is this about the most valuable player with an asterisk being that the team has to be good? Because if I would have told you that this is what Houston Rockets would have been looking like at the 6th spot to begin the season in the Western Conference, and our expectations of the Dallas Mavericks were already not extremely high. They may have exceeded the expectations slightly, but nothing overly crazy. But if we're looking at it, Houston, who also got Russell Westbrook in this deal, they also put themselves in this position to where it looks like they have underachieved on the season. We would have thought probably that they were going to be a top 3 seed coming out of the West for sure, in the top half of the West. I digress. All of that being said, I do not believe that they got it right. Without question, the guy that's leading the Eastern Conference right now in the whole NBA in best record, the guy that's leading the West Coast in the best record on the West, and then you take your pick from there. Those two are already in. We are this close away. I get this feel and this vibe, and I'll let you speak. We are this far away, DT, from calling Luka Doncic the best player in the NBA. We're already we've crowned LeBron. He's on his way out. We've already, talked about Kevin Durant and the way that he scores and so forth. I understand that. He's kind of an afterthought in a sense to most people right now because of injury. Then people want to throw Kawhi Leonard in there. Now people are talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo. If we're doing that, you got to throw Luka Doncic in there.
All right. So for me, they got the awards right. If you're going to take out Luka Doncic for James Harden, I don't have no problem with it. But James Harden, Luka Doncic, I don't see no issue with it either. The Rockets are in 4th place in the Western Conference. Remember, they traded Clint Capella midseason, and they're running PJ Tucker at center. James Harden is taller than the center on the floor for the Rockets. All right. He's putting up outstanding numbers. And remember, Russell Westbrook doesn't really have a jump shot. They're winning the games this season by shooting 3-pointers, and somehow whoever gets the ball first gets the ball first. I have no issue with James Harden being up there because think about this. James Harden is putting up similar or even better numbers than he did when he won the MVP 2 seasons ago and when he was in the stage last year for the award ring. I have no problem with it. I see Luka Doncic being in there. Out of those 4 guys, it's 3 of the 4. Giannis will win his 2nd MVP trophy. I don't think there should be any doubt about this. Now, to crown Luka as the best player in the league, I don't want to crown that yet. He's
not today. Not today. Not today.
I don't even think next season either.
I beg your pardon?
I don't think it's next season either. The best player in the league is also the guy that's leading the best team in the NBA, which is Giannis Antetokounmpo. God, butcher his man's name. We all know who he is. It's Giannis. It's real simple. Giannis is still the best player in the world because guess what? There's nobody like him in the world. There's not one player in the NBA who's like Giannis, who can guard Giannis, who can do anything.
Make him the best basketball player?
Listen, when you're averaging 30, 15, and 6 assists a game, playing power forward, yeah, it does. It makes you the best player in the game because there's nothing that Giannis can't do but hit an outside jump shot. All right, we're talking about
that makes a huge difference. This is a shooting league.
Not when you're a power forward. You don't have to shoot threes. You don't technically have to shoot threes because everybody else is doing it. Doesn't mean you have to do it.
If Giannis
it's that simple. I don't take his 3-point shot against him and count it against him when it comes to be the best player in the league because guess what? Who is going to stop him when he puts his head down?
If Giannis Antetokounmpo is the best player in the NBA, I really do not have a good feel for where basketball is going.
Hey, listen. You try to stop Giannis going downhill when he gets the ball on the left baseline, and you tell me how that works out for you.
I'm not arguing that point. But however, what I am arguing, and again, we could talk about oranges. He uses it to his advantage, and everybody has what they use to their advantage. When your arms are the length of broomsticks and so forth, a lot of he's
a walking pterodactyl. I get it.
I understand, and that makes it that's not to his fault, and I'm not trying to make that out to be that way. Okay, so I get that, I understand that, but we're really talking about him jumping. He has not won a thing. How much does, and this is always the argument that I have with people about this, and I know that you're getting a little frustrated, but just bear with me for a second. When we talk about who the best player that there is in the league, it has to be some structure there. How much does championships mean? How much does MVPs mean? How much does having a legitimate jump shot mean? How much does playoff appearances and so forth, dominance, percentages, how much does all of this stuff mean when we're factoring it in? Because I think that those are things we have to judge it by exactly knowing exactly what that is. And I need to know what that is before we go doing that. Because I don't think that he's the scorer that Kevin Durant is. Both of these guys very long. He's not as good. I mean, he's a very good defensive player, obviously. But I'm not going to say he's a better basketball player than Kevin Durant. I'm not going to go that far.
Kevin Durant's a better scorer. Here's the difference between Kevin Durant and Giannis. Giannis not only is the MVP, but is also up for the next category we're talking about, which is Defensive Player of the Year. Top 3 candidates for Defensive Player of the Year this year. Giannis, of course. Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert. Listen, can't go wrong with any one of these guys. You can't. 3 best defensive players in the league because Kawhi Leonard only plays 55 games a year. And we all know Paul George, who gets a lot of credit. The one thing Paul George doesn't get credit for is the fact of if it's late in the game, you don't want Paul George guarding somebody because Paul George allows a lot of shots to go in at the buzzer. All right. Listen, Anthony Davis is my Defensive Player of the Year. Not because he was slided for the MVP award, which you can make an argument that he was a candidate. He was one of the 5 best players in the league. So you can make that argument. Why is Anthony Davis Defensive Player of the Year? Well, Deshaun, you're a guy that loves numbers. How many players in the NBA this year averaged over 2 steals, 2 blocks, and over a steal and a half in the game that's qualified this season? How many players did it?
I don't know, but is one of them Drew Holiday?
No, his answer is 1, and it's Anthony Davis. Davis averaged 2.3 blocks and 1.7 steals per game this season. Where you can block and steal at the same time, and the Lakers players, when Lakers on the court, the teams are negative when Anthony Davis is on the court defensively. That's how much of a defensive impact he's made. Now, why is Giannis on this list? Listen, Giannis, on top of being the best offensive player of the league scoring wise and the most versatile guy without a jump shot, as you would call it, in the entire league, he does just as much damage on defense as he does offense. His defensive win shares, top 5 in the entire league. Defensive rating, top 5 in the entire league. And the Bucks are not the number 1 defense in the league. So if he's guarded by the number 1 defense in the league, where the defense is not number 1, and you're top 5 in defensive rating, playing the number of minutes he has, and with the impact he makes, you're up there. Rudy Gobert led the NBA in block shots, not named Hassan Whiteside this season. Rudy Gobert is going to be Rudy Gobert. He's the anchor of the Jazz defense. He's the best defensive anchor in the league. Unfortunately, the Jazz have got to realize that this man going to be worth 5 years at 195 to almost sorry, 5 years at $250 million. That is the next question for the Utah Jazz. I'm glad I don't have to write that check, by the way. Deshaun, who you got for Defensive Player of the Year?
I don't know if he's on the ballot, man, but I love what Drew Holiday did this season. I really did. And they were a very, very poor team, and it's really being overshadowed. But they were a really poor team defensively this year. I don't think that they were very good. But the job that he did with always having to defend the best, definitely the best perimeter player on the floor on the other side. Occasionally, guys that were much bigger than him at small forward and maybe even got stuck position and in positions and situations with a power forward from time to time. But I love what he was able to do. And I don't know if necessarily he did the best job to me with what he was working with and with his size. Him being who he is and who he's playing for. And then having to go and try and get some baskets on the other end as well. Much like Giannis, sure. But he doesn't have the long arm advantage. He doesn't have the strength and the big, broad, bulky shoulders advantage. Now, I'm not saying that that should be a disadvantage to anybody else or to a fault per se. But that's just who I like defensively, man. For Defensive Player of the Year, I think what he did this year was really, really underappreciated.
All right, let's make this category very quick. We'll go next into Rookie of the Year. The three candidates that's going to be for the award this year: Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies, Kendrick Nunn of the Miami Heat, and Zion Williamson of the New Orleans Pelicans. I'm going to let you take this one first. Who is your Rookie of the Year?
I'm going to take Ja Morant on this one. I don't think that there's anybody else that you can realistically take. I think Kendrick Nunn did a phenomenal job placing himself in that position. Who could you put in there at fourth that couldn't break in on a guy that played 20 games or less? Not saying he wasn't dominant in those games and played very well, because he was. I'm not sure who fourth and fifth is, but it really doesn't matter because people aren't treating third place like it mattered or who was in that spot, nor second place. Nobody's going to remember a couple years down the line Kendrick Nunn came in second. And maybe not even Zion. Most people are going to say, well, where was Zion at? Oh, that was the year Zion got hurt. Yeah, that's right. They sat him and he was restricted minutes. Yeah, it's Ja Morant. But Ja Morant got that spot in large part. I don't want to slight him, but I would have been excited to see what that looked like had Zion Williamson been healthy all season.
All right, so it's now my turn to rant. Ja Morant's the easy Rookie of the Year. It should be close. It should be unanimous. What I do find disrespectful is the fact that Zion Williamson was put in the top three. It was disrespectful. We hold the MVP and other awards like this to a certain standard of number of games you have to play. He plays 19 and gets involved in the award. I don't care how bad the rookie class is. There's no way this man should have been nominated for Rookie of the Year. Not because he wasn't the most talented. He played a third of the games. A third. 19 games and you become Rookie of the Year, or have a chance to actually win the Rookie of the Year award. That means you're discounting what P.J. Washington did in Charlotte. You're discounting what R.J. Barrett did in New York. And hell, they played the whole season. All right? I can't understand how a guy playing 19 games is the rookie, is a chance to be Rookie of the Year. This should be Ja Morant's a runaway. Speaking of disrespectful, let's talk about the Most Improved Player award. 3 candidates were given by the NBA: Bam Adebayo of the Miami Heat. You have Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. And the other Most Improved Player of the Year candidate, this award angers me so much because somehow, for some strange reason, he's on this list. Doncic, help me out here. Yeah, I just completely threw a brain fart. Why did I completely throw a brain fart? Because
because he's Ingram. A Duke player.
No, it's not because of Brandon Ingram.
Duke player. You do that to all the Duke players.
No. I have no issue.
If it's Brandon Ingram, you do it to all the Duke players. And I'm no Duke lover.
No, I don't have an issue with Brandon Ingram being on this list. I have an issue with Luka Doncic being on this list.
Me too.
There's no way a guy who wins Rookie of the Year is the Most Improved Player. It's the second year in the NBA. Are we kidding here? But the reason why I'm also irritated is this is something that's going to anger me as well. Here's the problem. The last three Most Improved Players, guess what? Their scoring averages went up over 10 or more points. Devontae Graham of the Charlotte Hornets went up over 14 points a game to almost 18 points a game with almost 8 assists a game. And he didn't get considered in the top 3. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, what he did was a most improved player candidate. You're going to put a guy that's potentially an MVP candidate on the same list in his second season as the most improved player? Are we just trying to find a way to give Luka Doncic the award? Is that what we're trying to do, NBA? Because this is really irritating.
Maybe that's their way of putting him on. Maybe that's their way of saying, here you go, Luka. We know that you should have been on the MVP list instead of Harden. So instead, we're going to put you on this little teeny tiny list that you already have made clear that you shouldn't be on anyways because of Devontae Graham. I agree. He shouldn't be on this list. He said he shouldn't be on this list. You know why he said that? Because he knows that he should be on the MVP list. He was a top 5 draft pick the same way Brandon Ingram was. Should top 5 draft picks, especially removed within the last handful of years, 2 for Luka Doncic, should even be on this list either? I'm not understanding how that makes any sense.
I'll give Brandon Ingram this. Brandon Ingram's game has evolved. Now, mind you, it didn't evolve after Zion Williamson showed up, but Brandon Ingram was actually fun. He was playing outstanding basketball all season this year. His improvement has been there. We saw the improvement. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with Bam Adebayo because Bam Adebayo has turned himself into one of the top 25 players in the league, turned himself into that elite big guy. I have no problem with that. But what I have a problem is a guy that's in the second year of the NBA who just won Rookie of the Year. Just won Rookie of the Year. It beats out a guy that in the same class that got into a new situation. SGA is this close. Like you're talking about how Luka's this close. SGA is this close from putting himself in that next tier of guards, especially combo guards, the NBA, the way he's growing. And Devontae Graham, who is now Isaiah Thomas 2.0, we're talking Sacramento Isaiah Thomas. There's nothing wrong with that. Devontae Graham would have hit 300 3-pointers this season. 300 if he would have finished the season at the pace he was going. NBA is a joke on this one. All right, Coach of the Year award. The Coach of the Year award, I think, has already been voted on, but Mike Budenholzer, Billy Donovan, Nick Nurse were the candidates. Nick Nurse, Budenholzer, and Billy Donovan split the award to the Coaches Association. Did they get it right? Who you got real quick?
I like Billy D. To be able to land in what are they, the 5th spot at this current time in the West, if I'm not mistaken, 4th or 5th. Cool. You don't have the Russell Westbrook anymore. You don't have the Kevin Durant anymore. You don't have the Carmelo Anthony anymore. You don't have the Paul George anymore. You don't have the who am I missing? Because there's one more. Durant, Harden,
Kendrick Perkins,
Westbrook. No.
Kendrick Perkins?
Durant, Harden, Westbrook, George, Oladipo, and there's one more I'm forgetting. There are no more of those guys. Those guys are gone. That deserves to be Billy Donovan's spot. My expectation, if anybody exceeded the expectations, if there is a dark horse in the playoffs this year, that's the guy.
Listen, I had no issue with Billy Donovan being Coach of the Year. He deserved it because I had the Thunder at the beginning of the season, one of the 3 worst teams in the NBA. And the Western Conference. On top of that, I didn't think Chris Paul was going to make it all year. Chris Paul made it the whole year, and guess what? The Thunder are a dangerous first-round out. So Billy Donovan gets the award. Last but not least, before we go, the 6th man of the year, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, and Dennis Schroeder, I think, were the 3 candidates. Who you got? 30 seconds.
Give me those names one more time.
Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams, Sweet Lou, Lemon Pepper Williams, and you have Dennis Schroeder of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Who you got?
For 6th man?
Oh,
no brainer. Lou Will. It's already got his name. They might as well name it the Lou Williams Award at this point. He is tied for having it most times with Jamal Crawford more than anybody else in the history of the NBA. If it's not Sweet Lou, I don't know who else it is. And they should probably be restricted, figuratively speaking, not literally, from being able to win the award again that many times.
Real simple to me than Montrezl Harrell. The reason why I have it is because Montrezl Harrell's been the most important player for the Clippers all season. Not Paul George, not Kawhi Leonard. It's been Montrezl Harrell. Why? Because the Clippers can't win the championship without Montrezl Harrell. They have a chance to without Paul George. Maybe even without Kawhi Leonard get deep in the playoffs. They're not winning this thing without Montrezl Harrell. He's that important of a team. All right, Deshaun. We're running out of time here on Talking Hoops. But first and foremost, thanks again for coming on the show. Follow us on our different social media platforms, as you see on the bottom of the screen, as well as we're here every Tuesday night on Zingo Television, channel 198. For myself and Deshaun Tate. By the way, Breonna Taylor's murders have not been found yet. We're going on close to 150 days since she was killed, unfortunately, for no apparent reason. And the Louisville Police Department has still not done nothing about it. Please continue to hashtag say her name, keep her name active, and please, if you're in Louisville, find the killers. For myself and Deshaun Tate, we'll see you guys on next Tuesday. Peace out.